it'll automatically be recorded.
Did you say that it's recording? Perfect. I think we have quite a few people joining on in. We're excited to get started on time. We also will be recording this webinar to be sharing out with everyone afterwards as a resource, and hope to answer any questions afterwards. We'll be sharing our email and information to be supportive. So with that, we can go ahead and get started. Mitra, Nikita, do you mind unmuting yourself, and I'll introduce you guys. Wonderful. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to our first webinar for students. We're excited to share more about remote internships. This is a critical summer where a lot of students are seeing their internship programs remote. And so we've had thousands of students reaching out to us asking, how do we take a stab at remote internships and how can we be successful? Remote internships are quite different than in-person internships, as you might imagine. A lot of students are already having this experience right now while they're working remotely, taking classes remotely. And so this is an important seminar to teach you kind of some of the tips and tricks to succeeding this summer in your remote internship. So with that, we're going to go get started. And I will share my screen here. Today, we have two other speakers joining us. My name is Ava Sadeghi. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Symba. I have done 6 remote internships and very passionate about how they're able to give opportunities to students all around the world. We also have my amazing co-founder and CTO, Nikita Gupta, joining us, who will be able to answer a lot of great questions around technical internships. She's done 6 internships at Apple, Bank of America, and quite a few other prestigious organizations. And we also have Mitra Laboon, our VP of Global Partnerships, joining us. Previously to Symba, Mitra led a lot of career initiatives at the University of Oregon and is an amazing resource for students as she's led workshops and happy to answer general career development questions as well. And so here are a few housekeeping rules around this platform that we're using, Webinar Ninja. It is an interactive tool, so we want you to participate. There are polls if you scroll down to the bottom. You can post in the chat. We encourage you to introduce yourself and your school, ask questions. We want to make sure to follow up and answer. If we don't have time today, we'll definitely follow up afterwards to answer. Post in the chat, participate in the polls. Really, this is your time for students and university leaders joining on. We want to be a resource for you and support and answer questions you have around remote internships. And so here's a little bit about today's structure. We will have our welcome, and we're going to share just a little bit about our team, Symba, and the work that we do, share our 5 key principles to succeeding and excelling in your remote internships. And then we're going to bring on both Nikita and Mitra to share some tips about remote internships, and then really open it up to you all for your questions. We want to reserve the bulk of this webinar to answer questions that you have, and then we will wrap it up. Perfect. So this summer, as I mentioned earlier, we are getting so many students reaching out to us, asking us about remote internships and opportunities. We have recently partnered with ismyinternshipcancelled.com and Pay Our Interns to launch an entire campaign around #SaveInternships. And so we want to be there as a resource to help you out and answer questions that you might have. As I mentioned earlier, I've done 6 remote internships, and that's kind of how the beginning and story of Symba started. I was based in Tucson, Arizona, without very many remote internship opportunities, and wanted to use remote internships to be able to access internships outside of major cities, like in Washington, D.C., New York, and I even did a remote internship in London. And so we hope that after this webinar, you will leave feeling very confident and excited about your remote internship and how you will be able to be very successful this summer. We've already seen that there are several thousand programs, including Google, Apple, and quite a few other that have mentioned and made announcements that they are moving remote this summer. And so here is a little bit about our team, Symba. We are the leading remote internship platform. We do 2 things. We connect students with remote internship opportunities, and I'm sure that's probably how most of you found out about Symba. We'd love for you to actually share in the chat how you found out about Symba, whether it's through a personal connection, through university, through friends. We'd love to hear so we can continue the work that we're doing. And to date, we've helped design over 5,000 internship experiences with small startups all the way to really large corporations. When we first began Symba, we partnered up with the Virtual Student Federal Service Program to understand how to design a remote internship program. And some of the mentors of that program are still involved and engaged with Symba's development to date. And we are really relying closely on them, and happy to speak more about that program, as it's an amazing resource for students to tap into remote opportunities working with NASA, FBI, CIA, and more. We've also worked with over 250 HR teams to date to design remote programs and actually in-person internship experiences as well. We've been recently featured on Fortune, Forbes, and been backed by Target Incubator and Techstars for our work to empower students with these opportunities. And so today we want to share all of our key learnings and share with you how to really excel in your remote internship. This is going to be a new experience for a lot of students, but also a new experience for companies. So we encourage you to embrace this opportunity to understand, what does remote work look like? And a lot of you might not go into fully remote work positions after this, but some aspects of your job might be remote, whether it's Fridays working remotely or it's a few hours of the week that are remote. So this is an opportunity for you to understand your remote etiquette, remote skills, and also gain a unique type of learning lesson and skill set here. So the number one most important thing that we share is to get organized. It's important that you're organized and formatted before you go remote. So the first thing we say is create an office space that is remote for you. Have a place that has some nice lighting, that's quiet, that you can enjoy working at day to day. Because you're going to be in this space and it's going to be your new office. So when I was doing my remote internship, I remember if I had an important call, I would tell my mom, do not come into the office, or make sure that everything behind me is appropriate, cleaned, and that the office space also looks presentable. The second thing for getting organized is set up all the tools you'll be using. Some of the more common resources and tools that we see are Zoom, Slack, Asana, Trello. So ask your employer in advance what types of tools you will be using, so that before your internship program even begins on day one, you're logged in, you are ready to go, and you're able to be really comfortable with all of these tools. And make sure that your internet is ready to go, that you have all the resources and things that you need. We've actually been working with some of our partners to make sure that students have access to computers, laptops, monitors, all the resources that you need. And then the third thing, review all your materials and your calendar. Your employer should be sending this out in advance, all the things that you need. And if they don't, be proactive, reach out to them and share, what does the calendar of events look like? And they will, respond hopefully with some great information for you there, so you can set yourself up for success. You know what to be excited about and what to look forward to on your calendar. The second pillar is set clear expectations. So when you are moving remote, it can be somewhat challenging. And I say that because my first remote internship was really awesome. But my second remote internship, I was ghosted by my manager because I wasn't in the office. So, he wasn't often seeing me and remembering to give me work. So it's really important that you set clear expectations and you create a framework with your mentor before the program begins. And oftentimes you will notice that your intern managers will have this set in advance, but if they don't, you can ask them, what are your company norms and code of conduct for remote work? A lot of companies are establishing this right now, but some companies require that every time you show up on Zoom, that you have your video on and that you are engaged and presentable. Some require that, throughout the working day, whether that be headquartered in New York, Eastern Standard Time from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., that you have your green light on your Slack on, showing that you are accessible and ready for work. So those are just some examples of like some code of conduct and norms that companies might have for remote work, but you'll begin to learn and understand what this is like before you get there. But you can always ask in advance to see that, what you should be doing. The second one, which I find is actually one of the most essential aspects of a successful remote project, is defining your project in advance. So set goals and deliverables for each week and constantly track and measure performance. This is something that you can define with your intern manager, and this is something that you can also propose to your intern manager. Oftentimes when I've done my internships, I have shared with the internship manager in advance, like, I know this is the scope and project of the work that I'm going to be doing, but I'm also really passionate about doing research on this topic or research on this work. And you'll find that your intern managers will be open to working closely with you to define a project that fits within your interests and also meets the deliverables and deadlines. Hopefully, I'm sure that a lot of you will be very proactive and productive when you are working remotely. So you'll be able to constantly track and measure the performance of your work. And part of that is asking for feedback. And I say times 10 because when you are remote, sometimes feedback gets overlooked. So make sure you schedule time on your mentor's calendar, on your intern manager's calendar, and say to them, I know this project is going to be submitted on Friday. When you have time, can we set up time on Friday afternoon or Monday to get feedback and review your work? And an internship is really a safe space for you to learn and get a lot of knowledge about the program and about your industry, and gain honest, brutal feedback on your work, so that when you do step into a full-time job that's salaried, you won't make the simple mistakes or run into the same obstacles you do during your internship. So, this is a really great mini experiment for you to learn and feel comfortable asking as many questions as you need and asking for the resources you need to be successful. So setting clear expectations is something you should try to do before day one, or at least on day one with your first check-in with your intern manager. The next important essential aspect of remote work in general is developing your communication skills. Communication is key as a remote intern and a remote worker, and will help you shine. So number one, write clean and professional email correspondence, and do this across all your mediums, whether it be through different messengers, through chatbots, through text, email, any forms of communication that you are having with your managers, your leaders, and team members at your company. Be professional. Double check spelling. You don't want to be embarrassed that you have misspelling. Also, when you're responding back to email, make sure you see who's CC'd in it, who's included in the email. You don't want to accidentally send an all company response back to everyone. So, be really, really cautious of your communication, because that will define your role and your experience as an intern at that company. We're also hosting some more information around email correspondence that Meecher will be hosting later on. Second, be present and engage on all video calls. That means looking into the camera during Zoom. That means smiling. That means not checking your email or your Instagram or your Twitter while you're on a video call, because your intern managers will take note of this. And if you are present, if you are able to absorb a lot of the information, you will shine and you will be an example. I know this is much easier said than done, but we highly encourage you to remind yourself throughout to be engaged. Something that I do at Symba with all of the video calls that we've been doing is after every video call, I will try to get up and walk around, maybe do a few push-ups and squats just to get energy flowing, and then I can get back into working again. So always try to find some sort of rhythm that you like. Third, be responsive and reliable. When you are working remotely, people can't just stop by your desk or knock on your door. So when they do ping you on Slack or they send you a message, try your best to have quick turnaround with these messages. At the same time, when you are setting expectations with your intern managers, you should ask them, what is responsive communication at that company? So do I need to respond within 24 hours? If an email is sent to me on after working hours at 5:30, do I respond the next morning? Just so you can have some clear framework around that. And then most importantly, demonstrate personality and just be you. Be fun, be engaging, because a lot of this can get really mundane if you don't put some fun personality in it. There's online, there's some cool things you can do with Slack to send some funny GIFs, whatever it is, to boost excitement, to make it sound fun, make it sound really memorable, and bring some excitement and joy to people's faces when you can be creative and find a way to make people laugh even while you are working remotely. That being said, stay professional. Next, we have build relationships. I know all of you know this is very valuable for both in-person and remote working relationships. But as an intern, one of the top things you want to take away from your experience is a network of amazing mentors, both leaders at the company as well as an amazing group of interns that you can connect with. So make sure that you are gaining professional development and that you are reaching out. Do not be confined by what your internship is, right? You can reach out via email and connect with other leaders at the company. When I was doing an in-person internship at the U.S. Department of State, I actually went around to different offices and introduced myself and offered to do lunch and coffee with different mentors. And I was really able to build out my network of mentors, especially afterwards when I was looking for a job, or even now in my working relationship when I'm able to reach out. It's incredibly valuable. And they will give you advice and guidance throughout your career, not just in the early stage. Also, reach out to other interns. The interns working with you are going to be really cool. They're going to also be excited to have some sort of connection and collaboration with you. Find a way to work on projects, to also set up Zoom calls and do creative things with the other interns. And fun activities. And as I mentioned before, find mentors that can be a great resource for you throughout the experience. And your and one. This is something that we call your and one at Symba. And it's this notion of some internships going above and beyond. So this is really your time to shine. You want to show your employer and the team you're working on that you're able to rise to the challenge and really be creative and take initiative. Something that they say about interns that are really successful are ones that might ask their manager, what else can I do to help? Is there another project that I can support on? what other initiatives are you working on that I might be able to support? So being a team player, and that is really supportive right now, especially for a lot of your intern managers will be kind of going through a crazy experience because work doesn't look like what it used to, and is not typically the norm. So if you can be supportive and step up to help, I'm sure they will take notice and appreciate that, and that will definitely give you a star when they're thinking about converting which interns to full-time. So be creative and show your extra skill sets. So in an internship, you can also, if you're a marketing intern, you can go to different departments and understand if you want to collaborate on different types of projects. You don't need to be confined by whatever sector you're in. You can learn and ask to work on other types of projects. And number one, we want you to always keep in touch after your internship experience, because this is all about your growth professionally and personally throughout your career. So when I did my remote internship, I actually made the effort to meet my intern managers the summer after in Washington, D.C. I went there for a conference and I made sure to grab coffee with all my mentors in person. And as things will settle and things will come together, you'll be able to meet a lot of the people that you are working remotely with. So add them on LinkedIn, add them on professional networks, keep them updated and looped into your journey. Even if you don't accept a full-time offer there, I'm sure that a lot of your mentors will be excited for you and your career and where you end up next. And if they're not supporting this step in your journey, as you do grow and excel, they will be there for you in the future. And so that is our 5 key principles to excelling and being very successful in your remote internship. Number 1, get organized before your internship program starts. Make sure your office looks great. Make sure you're familiar and comfortable with everything. Number 2, set expectations with your intern manager so that you know everything you need to do in order to be successful in the internship so you can go above and beyond. Work on your communication skills so that you can be fun, personable, engaging, and also professional. Build relationships so that you can take these with you throughout your career, and your one to shine and go the next step above. And so these are the 5 key principles that we will also be sharing some more information afterwards, and happy to dive deeper into these topics. For now, I am excited to welcome on our guest speakers that are going to be joining us and open it up to Q&A for all students. Perfect. So I'll have you both first introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm
first,
Mitra
I'll hand it
Laboon, and I'm the VP of
Nikita
Global
Gupta,
Partnerships
our
for
CTO
Symba, and I'm
and
currently
co-founder of
based
Symba.
in Portland, Oregon.
Hi everyone, nice to meet you all.
I can help you
super
when it
excited
comes to questions about career
help
guidance.
you
I
learn
used to
the
work
skills
in
to excel in a remote internship. My name is
career
Nikita. I
advice
am the
in
co-founder
Lake
and
Community College,
CTO of
right next
Symba,
to University of Oregon.
and my background is in computer science and software engineering. And I'm currently based in San Francisco.
Hi, Mitra. I think you might be muted.
Yes.
Wonderful. So please feel free to post questions in the message board down there. I know there is a chat, so I want to see if anyone has posted any questions. I will maybe open it up first to ask some of the questions as far as like for Nikita, in your experience as a technical intern, what do you think that technical interns can do to go above and beyond this summer?
Great question. So I did computer science and I had a couple of software engineering internships. One thing that you can do to go above and beyond during your internship is make sure to set a cadence with your manager and go through figuring out what your exact project is and what all of your tasks are to complete that project. So you want to be proactive. making sure you set a timeline for yourself, giving yourself all of these tasks, and then as well as like having another project in parallel so you can do more than expected. And then just shine through that way with your manager.
Yeah, so you can highlight
when it
on
comes
your
to
application, you're
specific
talking about
engineering
resume
tools, it really
work.
just, it depends on company
Yeah.
to company. But the
Yeah,
most common
so
tool
working as an
that
intern,
a lot of
you're
companies will use will be
directly
GitHub
gaining
to
job
contribute
experience.
your
You're
code
working
towards a specific project.
with the company, so you can highlight all those skills on your resume.
Thank you so much.
And one example
Mitra, I'd
is
love
you'll
to ask
probably
you a
be
question
getting a lot of
about
practice with your
students who
communication.
have
Alba
done
mentioned that earlier,
both
like
in-person
practicing
and
clear
remote internships. What is a good way that they can make
and
some
you
of
can
this
articulate that
shine on
resume.
their
And to dive into that
application,
a little bit
especially as
more
they're
deeper,
looking to grow their career afterwards?
one thing to really emphasize when you're doing a remote internship is it's to be concise. So when you're writing emails, for example, you can link in like hyperlinks to your emails to shorten the content. Just be direct with what you're trying to say and shorten your sentences as much as you possibly can. Using graphics like boldening some of your content can help people to make it easier to read. So that's one topic. But yeah, highlighting it on your resume by emphasizing the skills that you've gained and some of the projects that you've completed with your internship as well. So if you have stats for, say, you're doing internship with an NGO and you're doing a campaign, you're trying to reach a certain number of people. If you have the statistics to include, that beefs up your resume as well, just to be clear about exactly what you succeeded in with your internship projects. There's a little roundabout. Yeah.
No, that's wonderful. We do have a question from the audience around Symba and completing a code assessment. How do we know if we accepted to Symba's program? So we're excited to share that we have a lot of students who are interested in applying for our program, and we will be following up with you directly to let you know if you are accepted to the program. We know that there has been an incredibly high demand for students, and so we are working to find more opportunities. And we have a weekly newsletter that we are sending out for other opportunities outside of Symba as well. So we will keep you posted in the loop. And we invite you to invite all your friends to join as well. And feel free to reach out to us too directly if you do have questions about your application, and we'll definitely get back to you as well. But we're looking to further expedite that process and keep you in the loop. Great. And then I know, Nikita, I wanted you to share a little bit about your journey. I know you've done 6 different internships, and you've learned a lot about your career path through them. Would you be open to sharing about how the internship kind of shaped you and led you towards your career with a startup?
Yeah.
Of course. So I have interned with large corporations such as Apple and Bank of America, as well as a couple of startups around the New Jersey, Pennsylvania area, and Martha Stewart. So my biggest learning was when I went to a large company, I realized that my project was very specific and I had the same like 10 to 12 weeks to complete this one project. I wanted more technical freedom. So then I started taking on a couple of more tasks from my managers. Wait, can everyone hear me? Okay. So I wanted to take a couple of more tasks, but I realized that my creative freedom was limited at large companies and I wanted a more fast-paced environment. So after graduating, I decided to go work for a startup, and then was one of the very few engineers on the team, was the only female engineer on my team. And through that was able to take on a lot more work and work at a faster speed. And that was the type of environment that best suited for me.
And I notice here also in the polls, thank you all for participating. So it looks like no one has done a remote internship before. And it looks like a lot of you will, there's like 50-50 if you are doing a remote internship this summer. We know a lot of tech internships are moving remote very easily. Some of the programs that we've been speaking with have actually been asking us about how to make certain aspects of an internship into a remote framework. I would love to also maybe ask both of you if you have any tips or advice on like how to turn certain aspects of an internship into a remote experience. Yeah, so like what types of like great projects have you seen move remote and how like students can work on some things that, you know, are in person, but similarly at the same time remote?
So I can speak to the engineering side. Engineering is
international studies background.
It gives you a lot of freedom and it gives you a lot of freedom to work remotely, as we can all see right now. But the biggest thing is just making sure that you're on the same page with the rest of your team members and your manager. But taking on whether you're working or contributing towards a project, you can
just your online skills. You can
contribute there, as well as there are a lot of resources online to start contributing to open source projects that will allow you to grow your skills. And that's just one way to start dabbling into the engineering space to take some of those projects.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is using your tech skills to open up a conversation and collaborate, regardless of the time and place. That's the great thing about working remotely is that you can do this work around the clock, and you're not restricted by your location as well. So you can connect with a lot of people from different spaces and collaborate in that way.
Thank you so much, Mitra. We have a couple questions that just came in. One from Mary Beth. Can you talk a little bit about the types of remote internships available? Are they mostly geared towards technology fields or also business, marketing, etc.? So I'll take a stab at this question and then pass it on over. So it's kind of funny. When we first started out Symba, we automatically assumed that the most remote internships would be in the tech sector for engineers. And so we brought on a lot of engineers to our pipeline and our platform. And then companies started asking us for a lot of marketing and business interns to be remote from the employer side. And that's because we learned that a lot of marketing roles and business roles can be very autonomous and project-based type of work that can be conducted. So both of those work perfectly with remote internships. Some of the programs that are a little bit more challenging to make remote are programs in healthcare, as well as some manufacturing types of internships. Those ones, or like physical therapy, those are really like important to be in person. But we've noticed that honestly, any work that can be done remotely can also be a remote internship experience. Perfect. Would anyone else like to chime on in there as well?
I think you hit on all of the points. There's all types of, like you mentioned, there's all types of internships out there. And as long as you have a computer and a setup to talk to your team, those types of projects can be done remotely.
I'm going to move on to the next question we have from Christian, who says, some universities discourage remote internships. Do you think the current events will change some of the negative views towards these types of experiences? Yes, we have a lot of thoughts there. Maybe I will pass it on over to Nikita first, and then we can all chime in.
Okay. So yes, I think that one of the things that I like to say is that, everyone knew that the future of work was heading towards being more remote, but it came sooner than expected for all of us. There are millions of people who are around the world who are working remotely. And as we can see the trends, there are companies who are shifting towards doing remote internships instead of canceling their current programs. So
Yeah,
I think that current events have definitely created a more positive spin about this type of remote experience.
learning online have to
And
do with
since there are a lot of students around the world who have worked so hard to get these internship opportunities secured
one of the major
and are
challenges
relying
there
on
is
it to make
self-discipline, because when
income
you're
and to grow their
working
skill sets
in
and to
an
have
in-person
experience,
environment, you have other
it's
people directly there
definitely
to hold you
looking more
accountable.
positive to have
So I
a
think
remote
that's a really
internship.
big challenge when
And
it
as
comes to remote
as long as
internships.
you're being
And
able to
the
contribute
view
towards a
can
project,
change
learn
if people
skills,
are
and make income
like
for your internship
applying the
project,
skills
internship experience, a lot
and
of universities will
taking more
now
self-initiative
have a more
to
positive
succeed on your
outlook
project.
towards
So
it.
that really all comes down to what
Misha,
we
would you like
talked
to
about
chime in there as
earlier
well?
with communicating with your employers clearly, keeping up to date, staying on your platforms, turning your green button on to show you're online, just being present, even though you are not physically there. And that's really all on you. So yeah, I think that there's a lot of potential for that viewpoint to change, but it depends on how people dive into their internships.
I think that being a successful remote intern does require being a self-starter. You have to hold yourself accountable, and it is easy to, drift away and you're in your home setting and there's other distractions. So you have to hold yourself accountable and create a cadence and a routine for yourself. Our goal with remote internships at Symba is that we believe they create opportunities like never before for students to access them. As I mentioned earlier, I was in Tucson, Arizona. My university, Arizona, could not offer me the same resources and opportunities as Georgetown or the University of American University in DC. But with a remote internship, they could largely displace that and give me the skills and resources I need to access opportunities. And especially with remote work now, an essential element and core part of how we interact and are going to be able to have to be able to participate in the workforce, it is essential that internships also have that nature within them, right? If remote work is rising, how come internships are still in person? So, we have a lot of strong opinions and views here, and we have actually been working very closely with a lot of universities who've been reaching out to us organically, asking for our support and how we can create more opportunities for their students. So we really do want to work with universities in leading this movement. And I really appreciate your question, Christian. Moving on to the last question, we have Chris, who shares, how do you balance a student life with an internship? Great. I'll pass that on to Nikita.
Great. Great question. There are a lot of tips, but the one thing that I find the most useful is by blocking out time, like chunks of time on your calendar, especially if you're going to be doing a part-time internship throughout the school year. It's great to block in your calendar that you are designating this time to this time on your schoolwork or your meetings, and then this time to the next time for your internship work. So one thing is just making sure that your internship should always be supplementing whatever you're doing in terms of school. So hopefully you're getting new skill sets that you can apply, and then learning how to apply the skills and the
I think
experiences you've been taught in
something that we do
in a
tell
professional setting with
employers.
It all comes down to scheduling.
A remote internship doesn't need to be 40 hours
more
a
than you
week.
can chew from the beginning.
When I did my remote internship, I was working 10 hours a week, and it was the same amount as a course credit. So basically, you could balance it by having small projects that you work on remotely. And I find that incredibly valuable. You don't need to be immersed 40 hours a week. And for sometimes employers, that's also overwhelming for them to think of 40 hours worth of projects for students to be working on full time. So, be creative in designing how your remote internship fits within your schedule as well. So great. We actually had a couple more questions come in here, so I might ask them in bulk, and then the three of us can chime in on topics that we find to support. So they all kind of tie in. So what do you suggest to better prepare for the internship, which starts in a month? How can we cope with time difference? And what skills do you look out for a marketing intern?
So I can take a stab at the coping for the time difference one. The time difference one will really be dependent on the company that you're working for and what the expected hours are. Like Ava mentioned before, some opportunities can be anywhere between 10 to 40 hours a week. And depending on what their expectations are, they will set a time with you. If you are comfortable, let's just say you're in Europe or in Asia and you're comfortable with working during the night, so that way you're collaborating with a team. Let's just say if they were headquartered in US, then that is something that is totally up to you. But you should, everyone should have ownership of understanding like what time they can commit per week and what times they can commit per week on an hourly basis to do the remote internship. So that is usually just scheduled between you and your hiring manager at that program. But make sure, like, best when during what time of the day you'll be working. So you definitely don't want to keep yourself up all night just because you think that's the best idea. You should do like what seems best for your schedule.
See, as you can tell, there will be challenges you'll face going remote, but as long as you stay on top of it and you're aware, you can definitely manage. When I did my remote internships, a lot of the times they were project-based, meaning that I would work on them in the evenings, but then I could try to chime on in. And so the team knew what was appropriate for my time zone, and they would try to make team calls and the stand-ups meet my time zone. But it is a challenge. And so, embracing that challenge, for us, like we have had teams reach out to us from in the Middle East, and we'll stay up or come on board for a phone call at 1 or 2 a.m. To make things work. We'll all find reasonable ends to come together and meet that demand. And I really want to quickly dive into Grace and Iris's message and question around preparing for an internship that starts in a month. So Iris, I would highly recommend that you reach out to the team that you're working with and ask them that question. Ask them how you can get better prepared within the month and work closely with their team. And Grace, I think that
you guys for joining in.
Are a lot of great resources for marketing interns.
Really make sure
and there are great job descriptions too that can be supportive on the types of working roles for marketing remote interns. And I'm happy to follow up with you afterwards to share some more information there.
Because at the end of the day, the biggest thing
and with that, I would like to say thank you so much to everyone for joining us today. I'd love for Mitra and Nikita just to share, one last tip or comment you want to leave our audience with today before we wrap up. I can pass it on over to Mitra first.
And definitely want to add to that. But for those who might not be able to secure a remote internship, definitely don't be let down and use that time to learn new skills. You have, the internet at your fingertips, and definitely try to find skills that will make you more approachable for another remote opportunity. And the beauty of remote internships, and our team is working so hard in this, is that it should not be restricted to only the summertime. Any student should be able to find any remote professional opportunity anytime during the year. So if not the summer, then definitely in the fall or in the winter.
Well, thank you so much both for joining us today.
To be able to have
I'm
skills
really excited to be here as a resource for all of you. Symba is here throughout your entire remote internship experience, before it starts, during it, and afterwards. So you have our contact information, and you could reach out to us at any time with your questions. We're here for you. We're going to be hosting a few more webinar series and writing a lot of great content to support you through your journey. And we want to hear from you. We're here to support students and empower you with your career and your next chapter in your life. So we look forward to staying in touch, and thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you.